Welcome everybody to Tasty Tuesdays. And I have the most enigmatic Niomi Reardon with me today. How are you all going? How are you going, Niomi? I know you've just been on an absolutely incredible adventure in the last few weeks. I'm going to put it that way. How are you going, Sweet Pea?
I am wonderful, thank you. Yes, my adventure was very, I know life-changing is a bit of a over thing, but it's changed me, yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. So without further ado, I shall introduce Niomi properly. So Niomi is a life coach, a world traveler, a wife, mum, nurse, and author. Through her time in nursing and by using experience with natural medicine, neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, life coaching and education, Niomi has helped herself and many others to overcome the effects of negative stress. Her book, Stress SOULutions, has provided many an in-home, at-home resource of very practical hints and tips to gain the knowledge and techniques to promote peace and compassion within and all around you every day. How's that for an intro?
Yeah, it's very humbling to listen to yourself, isn't it?
Well, it's all true. I have to say, it's all true. So, would you like to talk a little bit about your adventure that you've just been on before we start diving into our yummy questions?
Yes, sure. Yeah. Because a lot of people don't even know it exists, and it's like something you just, once you've done it, you want to tell everyone and say everyone should do this once in their life. It's so it's a 10-day Vipassana silent retreat. So there's no speaking, and I guess I kind of latched onto the silent, and that's what I've told people. But it's really about meditation. The silence is just to get you in the meditation zone. And Vipassana is the most purest form of meditation that was started back in India at the beginning of meditation time. So it's completely different to all other types of meditation that I've ever done before. Yeah, it's yeah.
Wow. I just, like, we've spoken a little bit about it, away from here. And one of the things I think we all were a bit like, oh, how are you going to cope? But it's 10 days of no talking. But as you mentioned just before, it's not even just the no talking. It's no eye contact. It's no nothing.
Yeah, it's so unique. Like you just can't imagine it. It's until you actually do it, and just all different things happen. Like I was so surprised at how much music is stored in my head. Like every day there was some music coming up. I'm like, oh well, I'm not in silence. And just also, I really enjoyed hanging out with myself. Like I had some really good conversations going on in here. And just the energy of not communicating with anyone, because no eye contact, no pointing, or just being able to humbly and they didn't call it sacred silence, they called it a different, it's basically sacred silence, but just to not have to interact with other people at all. And it was, it's a way to go totally deep, because when you're meditating, you're totally deep, eyes shut. Yeah, and this technique just takes you to, he explains it really well, and I'll give it a go, but he takes you to a place where your subatomic particles slow down so much that you are so in the moment that you feel like you've disappeared, but you feel absolutely everything to the minuscule. So you're there and you're not. Yeah, but I could explain it differently tomorrow.
Oh, I love that. And it's like, I know in different moments of healing, I have had hints of that, where I've had a moment there where it was like I melted into, like, my brain took me to a place where I was like in a stream river thing, large stream, small river, and I was floating on my back in the stream river while I was receiving a healing session. And it's like my body became the water, but it was like I could still perceive my features. It was just that I was there and not there at the same time. and it was very, very cool. And I know after that particular session, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's it. And the thing is, it's based on Buddhism, but it's very non-denominational. So everyone's welcome. You just can't wear crosses or take Buddhas or anything. But they, it's really non-denominational. I've forgotten where I was going with that. But yeah, the feeling that you get. Oh, that's right. Aversion and craving are the two things. So you try not to go away from something and not try to go to something, just to be there in the middle, exactly where you are in the moment. And that's hard, because as soon as you experience that thing, like you said, where you're in the stream, it's beautiful. You're like, I want more of that. But then it's pulled away from you because you wanted more of it. You craved it. So your body,
Yeah.
So hence 10 hours a day meditating to get to that.
10 hours a day. Can you imagine, people? Like, I remember one of the questions I said to you was, did you have to sit on your butt for 10 hours cross-legged every day?
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know that I'd be able to do that. My legs probably would not cope. I think I'd have dead legs.
Yeah, you can have a chair. I ended up with a chair.
Can you have like a pillow to sit on? Or is it just the mat?
No, you know those foam pits that you jump into? The room was full of foam pits, foam, and people were propping up their legs, their back, moving them around. We made little nests for ourselves. We were super comfortable.
Wow, that makes things feel so much better. I was like, I couldn't imagine trying to sit on like a yoga mat on a wooden floor for 10 hours. I was like, oh, that would not be comfortable.
No.
So yes, I can understand how you can actually get to that position where you're sitting upright and you're feeling reasonably well supported. But yeah, after my time in childcare where I was having to sit on the mat with the kids a lot, and it was just sort of like you very quickly realize your adult butt is not equipped to sit like that.
Exactly. Yeah, I think where this technique was created, it was like in India, Tibet, and they sat on there cross-legged all the time from childbirth, from as soon as they could sit, right? So yeah, us Europeans are not that good at it.
Yeah, it's very much like there's the Asian squat. So you know how the Asians can like really squat down their legs and their thighs and their hips sort of seem to sit a little bit differently to how a European does. So they can get their butts really, really close to the ground and their knees are almost up by their armpits, and they're just super comfy like that. Meanwhile, we're all going, behind our knees feels really squished.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So given that you've just had this absolutely incredible experience, I'd love to know, where did you begin on your spiritual journey?
Yes, I'm so lucky. Like, I don't have a particular thing that happened. So my mum was always really spiritual, and she would take us to, like, we'd have a meal with the Hare Krishna, then we would go to a Lutheran kids club, and then we'd go to a different Buddhist temple. And so she took us around and showed us everything. And Mum's a meditation and yoga teacher, and I just grew up with that. Was just the way life was. I was very, very lucky in that respect. Yeah, it's just always been there. And even the meditation that I hit in those 10 days, it took me back to my childhood, and I went, I was doing this, not understanding what it was, but just not going with it. If sometimes I used to lie in bed and it feels like the ground's going to swallow you or you're going to fly away. And that was one of the things. And yeah, I just grew up with it. So I'm very lucky in that regard. I don't remember a life without spirituality.
Wow, that is so cool. So cool. So given that you've had this your whole entire life and you've written this incredible book, which I'd like to talk a little bit more about in a moment, I'd love to know, what does consciousness mean to you? because I get that that's going to be a different answer for you.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? So it sort of takes me back to and you might know this too, to my nursing training and studying young children. And there's a process in children's development where they recognize their own reflection in the mirror and they realize, oh, that's me. I'm a human being. So they become conscious of exactly who they are. So consciousness for me has lots of different levels. So there's obviously being awake, and I think as spiritual people, we are aware that consciousness can be very deep, and you can be an awake person and have refined consciousness, or you can just be going through the day-to-day things. Yeah, so I don't actually have a great answer for that one, other than there are different levels, and yeah, consciousness is one of those things that's really hard to pinpoint, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. That's why I like that question, because everybody has a different answer. Oh dear. So along your beautiful journey, I'd love to know sort of like what modalities and things have you played with over the years? Obviously, we know that you've had a bit of NLP and things like that, and obviously you're a nurse and you've dove into your natural medicines. I'd like to know a little bit more, like tell us a little bit more about the journey you've been on with different modalities and how you've played with them. And
yeah, I guess I also grew up with mum as my big influence, and so we would read all of Deepak Chopra's things and all the spiritual people out there, which it all came back to, which is also the Buddhist philosophy. Don't just go and believe anything or do anything just because people tell you to. You need to do what comes from within. So like my mum's a Reiki master, but she says, oh, I don't tell people that. It's I do my own things. So even as little kids, even when my children were little, if they'd fall over and hurt their knee, we'd just do this thing before we knew what Reiki really was. And we'd rub our hands together and just hold our hands over the sore bit for them to heal. So as far as specific modalities, I don't really know if I have anything other than my intuition and those ones that we've talked about. Like I do have a strict structure of NLP when I do my coaching, but then I'll also go with my intuition and sometimes chuck things out. If that's not working, then I'll just go with what I think the other person needs, or what's pertinent at the time. So I guess I just have my own philosophies, and I do cards as well. I used to do runes. They were one of the first things that popped up to me, is rune stones.
mm-hmm.
And I've been to all sorts of I don't know, that's probably not a very specific answer, but it's about having your own internal what works for you, I think, and that changes.
With the rune stones, because one of my soul sisters, she also plays with runes, or rather uses them, but I like to say play because it's more fun. How did you get into rune stones, and like how does that work for you when you were using them?
I think I liked the idea because I'm a nature mama. I like the earth, and so cards to me were a bit kind of plasticky, papery, whereas runes were rocks which I could connect to earth. So I really liked that concept, where you just, and it's the same as cards, like you can do what do I need to know, where am I now, and what's my future. Like you can choose whatever you like, but I don't know how I even got my first set. It's like I've had them forever, but I'm sure I haven't. So that I love them because they're very earthy, and so I'll take them out into the forest, and I'll take a client into the forest with me as well, and we'll do the runes within the forest, so that it's all Mother Nature. And
that's amazing. I love that. It's like all these different ways and tools that we have to connect into our intuition. It's like I remember back before, like when I've been using oracle cards for years and years and years, and I was really afraid of using tarot, because it was like tarot, not so much because of the death card or anything like that. It was more the detail that you can get from using tarot was overwhelming to me. I was just like, and I can't remember all the stories all the things that are supposed to be associated with each card, and how can I remember that? And to me, the runes are still a little bit of an enigma like that. to me because I've not played with them. I don't know what the symbols mean. Not in this lifetime anyway. I'm sure in other lifetimes I've played with them, but not this lifetime. And I would love to try, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't want to burst your bubble, but the runes do have a book.
Yeah.
And if it's turned up the other way, so whichever way the stone is, there's a book for, so you just go to the page. So,
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
I can't deny having playing with them anymore. It's like, no, it's too hard. No, it's not hard, Lorraine. You just got to play. Okay. Oh, okay.
That's our next
one day. So with all of your, actually, before I go into this question, how many countries have you traveled to?
Oh, I haven't traveled to a huge amount of countries. I just want to. So, yeah, I haven't actually done. But no, we lived in France for a few months. Yeah, I've been to, around Europe and things like that. But, yeah, I've traveled as much as a lot of people. But I love traveling, yeah.
But you do love to travel, and you have traveled more than some.
That's right.
And so I met somebody the other day who's barely even traveled out of Adelaide, and I said, so have you always lived here? Oh yeah. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, there's a few people like that. Like, how?
It's like, even within the state, how could you? I don't understand, but that's okay. Everybody's got a different journey, Some have the travel bug, some don't.
Yeah, that's it. And it's possibly a little bit symbolic for traveling outside your own little consciousness to expand your consciousness too. Like, not everyone wants to go there.
True that. That's a really interesting concept, given how I met this person. Anyway, they are now expanding outside of their little bubble. I'll put it that way. So yeah, that's really cool. Thank you. So with your travels and your spiritual journey and all the things, like even when you're working with your clients and retreats and all these sorts of things, I'd love to know, like, what sort of stands out as being your most tasty moment in life so far?
Yes, that was a good question. It took me a while to choose one because there's lots, but I decided to share this one about there's a place called Saint Mont-Michel. Have you ever heard of that? It's in France, and it's this this castle that's on an island, and when the tide comes in, you can't get across unless you go on this bridge, and when the tide goes out, this island's all on its own. Anyway, it used to be a monastery I don't know, however many hundreds of years ago. But you can go over there and visit as a tourist. You can stay there if you want. It's still a functioning monastery, so the nuns and all go to the church and do their particular thing. And when we were traveling over there, I just did this thing where I put my hand on the walls of this, like I was in awe of the place when I got there, but I put my hand on the walls and I took a breath, and for the longest and the shortest time, I could feel everything that had happened before in this place. And it was just this experience that I've never been able to recreate, never had before, where I could just feel all the things that had happened and the people that had lived there and what they'd experienced. And yeah, it was just, whoa, it's like, I want that again. Yeah, it was really just hard to explain. It's one of those things that it's really hard to articulate what exactly it was, but yeah, basically being able to feel history through the walls.
Oh my goodness, I absolutely love that. Samantha just wants, and hi Sam, she just wanted to be reminded, what was it called again?
Oh, what was it called? So it's Saint S-T and Mont M-O-N-T, Saint Mont-Michel or Michael, it's spelt. Yeah, if you ever go over to the west side of France, I think it's definitely worth a visit.
Beautiful. I've never been to France. Maybe I'll go there one day. Next place on my list is Canada. So
nice.
Michael's Mont.
Saint Mont-Michel. Michelle or Michael. Yeah, that's just the way they speak. Michael's Mont, Saint Mont Michel. Yeah.
Yeah.
He might have been there. Yeah, it's only tiny, really tiny.
She's done it in reverse.
Yeah. I think she said she's been there. So there you go.
Hey, there we go. Something else you guys have got in common. Cool. I had a very similar experience to that, but not nearly as yummy. I was in New Zealand. There's the Napier prison, or the jail, and this is the old one that's no longer used, but they used to do hangings and things like that in that prison or jail rather. And I had a very similar experience, and it made me feel very uncomfortable, as you can imagine, as like, I did touch the walls at one point. They're the big stone walls and all that sort of thing. Very similar structure, actually, when I think about it, to Adelaide and how we build in the older buildings. The big stone bricks and stuff. And perceiving the energies and seeing and this is sort of before I'd really fully gotten on my spiritual journey, so I didn't know how to expand out in those days. I didn't really know how to be an allowance of all of that, and I was just like, okay, I'm not touching anything else. I'm good. Let's just carry on with the tour. Thank you.
A wise move.
But yeah, it was a bit creepy. I have to say, it was not a pleasant place, and there were people that certainly died there that were innocent, and there was also some people that were very bad people, that died as well, and you could just feel all the different energies throughout the building, and it was just like, whoa. And then they used to have people that would sleep there and as like overnight things, and I'm like, no thank you. And it's like, we've got the Adelaide jail here just coming into the city, and you can do the same there, and I'm like, there's a geocache that's sort of near the front gate of the Adelaide jail. I'm like, this is as far as I need to come to the jail. Thank you very much. I don't require to touch that energy.
Yeah, exactly. We get to make choices about our energy, don't we? So why would you?
Oh my goodness. So with what your beautiful book here is about, so we've got Stress SOULutions. So how did this book come about, and what I sort of mentioned a little bit in the intro about how you've helped yourself and others dealing with stress, but what was sort of the catalyst of all of that? What led you to being able to dive into this specific area of stress?
Yeah, so so it wasn't until 2007 that the World Health Organization actually acknowledged burnout as a real condition. And so I started nursing full-time when I was 17, and I'd had a fairly happy, sheltered life. And then I walked into this like awful building that smelt disgusting, and the sounds were like either people yelling and crying and screaming or deathly silent. And I could feel all the misery, and I didn't know anything else. And so I spent years in that, like wanting to help people and ending up basically burnt out myself and not understanding what was going on. And I ended up on blood pressure tablets. Like I had a really high blood pressure. I had an inflamed stomach, like a stomach ulcer, tablets that I had to take, and lots of painkillers for my bad back, because we used to lift people that were 100 kilos in those days. We didn't have machines. And I just, as I got older and wiser, I would look at people with their illnesses as I was walking around and think, that could have been prevented. That could have been prevented. I'm pretty sure you've got that because of that. And like all these things that, of course, I couldn't say to people, hey, the reason you've got this is because of your lifestyle, or to someone else, the reason you seem to be so sick is I've seen how you interact with other people. You're not looking after yourself at all. And to me, it was like so obvious. But how do you tell people this without insulting them? And, one of my favorite lines is, if you give advice to someone that doesn't want it, it's taken as an insult. So I guess it was partly for me as well. I could say, so I've written this book, but I have to be really careful if I'm doing that at work because, you can't sell things at work. So I'll often give them away, like, here, you need to read this, take this. Yeah, for people that are interested. So, yeah, that's kind of the basis of it.
Wow. And within this beautiful, amazing book, there is so many hints and tips and amazing things. And I had to laugh because I was just like, before we hopped on the show, and I just had about 20 minutes or so, and I was just like, what shall I read about just before we hop on? And what do you know? It was Chapter 10, Meditation and Mindfulness for the Soul. And I thought to myself, that is so appropriate given what Niomi has just been doing.
Classic you, getting that, intuiting exactly what needs to be. Clever girl.
And there was some really cool moments in here. And one of them being that you've mentioned in here that, the volume of meditation and mindfulness scientific experiments and research has increased exponentially over the last 20 years. A recent study conducted in the United States found that the use of meditation in adults has tripled in the last 5 years, and that was in 2017. So I imagine that's probably gone up a lot more given the world and everything that's happened over the last few years. And then the next little part says there is so much proof that as little as 5 minutes of meditation a day for 8 weeks can change the brain for the better. And if you stick it out for 30 minutes a day, this goodness lasts for up to 3 years, even if you don't continue it. And I was like, wow, that is incredible. So is that would be 30 minutes a day for 8 weeks, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. There's so many experiments out there. And now that we can do functional MRIs, which mean, put them through, what an X-ray, that they scan everything while you're moving. And it joins the two sides of your brain, your left and your right brain start to work together. And yeah, because we know how important it is. Actually, on the retreat, there was a doctor there, and I said to her, "Do you ever prescribe meditation for your patients?" And she said, "Yeah, I do." She said, "Not many of them do it." She said, "But I did have one."
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it should be prescribed, right? I think it should anyway.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, 100%. And for those of you who don't know what meditation is, I think most of us have a concept of it, but I love your definition that you've quoted from Deepak Chopra, is the deliberate silencing of the thought process until you get to the source of thought. Would you be able to expand on that a little bit?
Oh, sure. You probably need a Buddha to give you the good. Yeah, so it's been described to me as you will end up feeling the truth because so Vipassana, the one I just learned, is about you see things as they are. So we're observing our breath. We're not to alter it at all. We're not to alter anything. We're just absorbing and seeing what's happening right now. So you are in the moment. There is no other moment. You are in that moment, and things just come to you. I've heard someone say once that prayer is asking for things, whereas meditation is listening to the answers.
I love that. Oh, wow. You just gave me goosebumps. I wish you could see it, but you just gave me goosebumps. So Vipassana that you just did, given the 6 stages of meditation that you've mentioned in here: the concentrative meditation, guided visualization, open awareness, observation meditation, loving kindness meditation, mindfulness meditation. Where does Vipassana fit in that lot?
Oh, yeah. So I would call it open meditation because there's no guided. It's pure silence. Like you're told processes what to do with your brain, and it's so hard. It's like it's not easy. There's 3 days of just observing your breath and parts around you. Like, when are we getting to the good stuff? When are we getting to the good stuff? And so by day 4, when they start to tell you, like, oh, finally. Yeah, and so, but at the end, oh, look, their whole philosophy is just impeccable. Like, you can't fault it. We also do a meta meditation, which means let's share and think about the whole world and love and share our good vibes with everybody. So we're not just being selfish, we're expanding out our love and our peace to help other people out. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. I would recommend everybody does it at least once. There's places all around the world. You can do it in Spain, you can do it in New Zealand, you can do it in all around Australia. And it doesn't cost you anything if you've got no money. Really? It's all done on donations. Isn't that amazing? Look, like I said, it's impeccable. There is nothing. I know, right? They feed you, they house you, they love you. You do nothing. And you're not pushed any weird religion. Yeah. It's pretty cool, huh?
Wow. I had no idea that it was like by donations.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man, I need to save up my annual leave.
Yeah, it's the time for a lot of people.
10 days. It's that. Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That I think would be a real opening up of a lot.
It's a heart opener.
Yeah.
Soul expander.
Did you find that the mind chatter started to settle after a few days?
It did, but it didn't settle on its own. I actually have a few stern words with myself and say, just shut up. This is my time. It wasn't easy. It didn't come naturally. There's a lot going on in there. Yeah, it did. I traveled a lot, and especially like I can't meditate for 10 hours. So there's moments of boredom and there's moments of falling asleep. But in the boredom moments, I had to negotiate with myself. I'm like, all right, I'll let you think about that for 15 minutes. And then you get back to, I'm like, yeah, okay. So I get to think, and I'd let myself create and do stuff in my head because I just thought 10 hours was unreasonable personally.
Oh, I love it. It's like, here's the parameters for what you're going to be doing. And you're sitting there going, yeah, but that's unreasonable. It's like, I've signed up for this, but it's unreasonable.
But I sat there.
Yeah, wow. So, like, over the day, this whole conversation is just so fascinating to me, and obviously to people in the chat too. So, like, could you just take us through what, say, an average day would look like?
Yeah, sure, I will. I'm also a little bit conscious of don't want to put people off because sometimes I think, gosh, if I'd known that, maybe I wouldn't have gone, and not every course. We had a really strict teacher and she was Indian and recreated what it's like to sit in India. And I spoke to one of the guys who had done the course in India and he said, yeah, it's good because you're getting the ridgy-dig, but there are other teachers that will let you meditate in your room, and apparently everyone just goes to sleep because here's the thing, we get up at 4 a.m. So at 4:15 somebody comes around with this gorgeous sounding gong. It's from Tibet, I think, but it's like a singing bowl, so it's like so lovely, but it's early. It's dark, and so you get up. You get up and you meditate until 6:30. You hang out for that 6:30 gong. So you're listening to gongs, and then you go into the breakfast hall. Your breakfast's all there, ready. You serve yourself without making eye contact. You've all got a dedicated spot, so you don't have to think. and then you eat, you get a little bit of time. Like the grounds were quite lovely, and you're not allowed to exercise hard, but you can do whatever you want in your room. So a lot of people doing yoga in their room, or you do laps around this maybe 5-6 acre property. And I watched one of the girls do it in bare feet, and I thought, perfect, grounding. So she kind of started a trend, and we all started doing that. And then you come back in, you keep meditating, you get lunch at 11. Seems really early, but you got up at 4. That you're listening to some recorded, really, really old-fashioned, badly done things from this man who started the Vipassana movement throughout the world. Like he didn't start it. Like it was in 1991. It'd been going for years before that, and people have been trying to teach it, but messing it up. And they're like, no, it's getting polluted. So now it's really strict. So even though I know it, they said to me very clearly, you must not teach this. You're not allowed to. I'm not qualified to teach it. Yeah. So I'm going off on a tangent. Yeah. So back on to the day. So we have our lunch. We go and we just keep meditating. You do get little breaks. I mean, you're up from 4 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. And we watch then you go for dinner. And this is the one I was like, maybe I shouldn't tell people, but you go for dinner at 5 o'clock and it's 2 pieces of fruit. And I thought it'd be really hard and I'd be hungry, but I wasn't hungry. Like I was surprised. Like I'm more hungry home here eating in the morning. I feel hungry. So I don't know. They feed you the right food. Like it's wholesome, healthy, nutritious, and delicious. And you have to, he went on the first video day, he says, no, by now I won't even try his accent, but he says, you probably realize we're not giving you dinner. He said, don't start, try to just fill yourself to 3/4. Don't overcompensate for that. And it's very cute. Yeah. So before we go to sleep, we watch a video that goes for an hour. And it's poor quality. It's the old original. And he just teaches us, it's a way of life. Vipassana is a whole way of life. It's about caring for others, about understanding your patterns of craving and aversion. And if we can become equanimous, I don't know how he says it, about everything that's happening, then there'll be no more misery. And he explains it beautifully. Wow. But, and that's why he does it and why he gives it for free, because he wants the world to be happy. And he sings this chant about may every person in the world be happy. And he talks about how when he started it was in India, right? And he said people, as soon as they know there's free food, they're going to be lining up down the road for hours. And he says, but then they realize it's 10 hours of work in here. So they don't abuse the system.
That is so funny. I love how this humor is sort of sprinkled through that too. That's just so good. How do you go with that when you're watching a video and does a bit of humor and it's like you're supposed to be in silence?
No, people did laugh. And there was one girl on the course who had the most gorgeous laugh, and she would just explode out with laughter. I'm like, yes, I love that. I'll tell you another funny story. At the end, so the very last day, it was one of the girls' 40th birthday, and not many people knew that. And I just whispered to a couple, it's their 40th, so let's sing. So everyone's sort of saying, we sung, we're like, yay, and she gave me a hug. And then the teacher comes up and says, we're not allowed to sing here. And silence is finished by then. Like we had a day of, we're allowed to chatter. Noble, that's the word they use. We go from noble silence to noble chatter. But still no singing ever on site. That was hard. Yeah, that was hard. Or whistling.
Whistling? Well, that's all right, because a lot of people don't know how to whistle anymore. Oh no. So with your business, your coaching and your lifestyle coaching, so what is the aim of that for you and for your clients?
It's so in line with Vipassana, which is why I loved it so much. It's really for people to experience that inner peace and joy although there was a lot more joy in my coaching than there was in the 10-day Vipassana. But for people to experience, it did lack joy. That'd be the only criticism I'd have. There wasn't a lot of fun going on. But yeah, a very similar philosophy is what I have, is for people to experience and understand that inner peace and calmness, which I help them get, help them bring out within themselves. And just by tweaking and asking questions and people understanding that the patterns that they're doing are causing, cause and effect. Yeah. And Vipassana was the same. He kind of, because we had 10 hours of videos, I guess, because we had a video every night, spoke about how things are caused by our behavior, and how whenever he explained it all so well, however, when we're angry at someone, the anger, that old saying of when it's like feeding yourself poison. Yeah, when you're angry, it doesn't go to the other person unless they let it in. Yeah, lots of different things that he spoke about that. Yeah, their whole way of life. So yes, back to my business. So everything that was on the Vipassana was the same as what I do, I guess. And so, like on retreats that I run, we do a day silence. I thought that was pretty cool, but 10 days are out. So different. Mm-hmm. And just for people to be able to take off their masks and to get down to understand their true selves, their patterns that they're in, and a lot of time how to have more fun.
I love that. I'm like, could you imagine all those people are told you cannot wear makeup for 10 days? That's taken off a mask.
So true. I don't think anyone will make up at Vipassana. You couldn't be bothered. No one's looking at you anyway, right? You'll just head down.
I used to find putting makeup on, particularly when I was really stressed, it was actually a really interesting form of meditation and creativity for me, because it was just a moment to be really present with me, my body, and how I was feeling. And it was like, okay, now what color would you like to choose? And it was like a moment to really tap into my body and see what we could play with together. And it would all be very silent. It was all here, here in my heart, and just chilling out, calming down. And that was at a period of time when I was quite stressed and sort of had a lot of stuff going on in my world. So I can understand why people do choose to put makeup on. I don't wear an awful lot most of the time, so because I'm not as stressed anymore.
I love that you just identified two things. One, that you've learned how to do self-care to cope, and two, that that anything can be a meditation if you're present with yourself. So putting on makeup can be a meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I've just got this image of, in the old days where they used to have to brush their really long hair 100 times. It's like, gosh, that would be a long meditation. That would be classed, I think, as active meditation.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So given that you have like these incredible people that you do retreats with and you do coaching with and stuff, what top tip would you give to somebody who is just beginning their spiritual journey?
Yeah, I think to follow your intuition, but also to learn from others. So find someone that you want to learn from. And the more you learn, it's like that old thing that the more you realize you don't know. And so to just keep learning, really. And follow your intuition with where you want to go with it. I love getting people that are on the start of their journey. It's one of my favorite things to take people on from the beginning and watch them grow and expand and go, wow. And I love that. So good.
Yeah, me too.
That'd be good.
Me too. Yeah, I find it really interesting and exciting to watch them go from feeling like, I don't know what I'm doing, to, hey, what do you reckon about this? Because I reckon blah, blah, blah. It is like, that's the way. If that's the way your intuition's leading you, then trust that.
Yeah.
Love it. What so with your mentor, you just mentioned you had a really good mentor. What sort of top tip did your mentor give you?
I didn't have one particular mentor, I must say. I mean, I had my mum, I've had all people that have taught me each of my modalities. And then, I would say one of my mentors was like Wayne Dyer, because I read every one of his books, and Deepak Chopra and people like that. Yeah. So I don't think I had one particular person. So it was just keep on being interested, curious, staying curious. Yeah. And not having an open mind, but not having your mind so open that your brains fall out, because it happens to some people.
I totally agree. It's like people can go a couple of different ways, can't they? Like they can go, oh, and they find a modality, for example, and they just go, oh, this is everything, and they get stuck there. And it's like they don't go ever beyond that, and then they get a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for?
Fanatical?
Yeah. And elitist, and like this is the only way to do things, and all of that. And I'm like, well, it's whatever way works for you, and to me it's important to expand out and bring in the different modalities, like you were mentioning earlier, of when you're doing your sessions and things. It's like, I'll do what works for the client, given here's my toolbox of stuff that I can pull from. And let's see what part of the menu is going to be working the best for you. And I love that you do that too with your clients. It's like, yeah, you just do your healing, your treatments, your coaching your way, and the people that require you will find you because they're attracted to your special brand of magic.
So true.
So before we head into our very last little tasty, yummy question, what sort of events or trainings have you got coming up, and how can people get your book and all of that sort of thing?
Yes. Well, my book, you can go to my website and order it from there, or it's on Amazon, or you can message me. And if it's, I love hand delivering my books if there's someone close by, or I'll just post it. Yeah. And I've got a retreat coming up in May, but I think that's booked out. I will be having another retreat in November in the Daintree. So that's my favorite one. So if anybody wants to go to that one, just, get in touch with me. I'm pretty good on Facebook Messenger, would be my most responsive, or my email. Yeah.
Awesome. And of course, in the show notes is Naomi's her website is up in there, so that you can contact her that way as well.
Yeah.
All right. So for those of you who know this show well, here's the last most tasty question of the evening. If you could sit next to any person, dead or alive, on a park bench for the afternoon, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I didn't spend a lot of time on this one, but I had two people came up straight away. So I'm just going to briefly talk about the first one. And it's no particular name, but Nancy Wake comes to mind. She was a woman in the, there's lots of these women. I don't know her particularly well, but who in the war, these women were not so much spies, but they were saving people from being killed. And I just love the fact that that they had a life with purpose and adventure, because I like both of those things together. And just to be able to sit down and just talk to them about their courage and how they could make that decision of, putting themselves at risk while saving other people's children, and having to lie at times, but knowing that lying was saving someone's life. And so I'd love to sit and listen to somebody talk about all that sort of stuff. Like, that would be really fun. But then the other person that came to mind was my grandma, because the last conversation I had with my grandma, she was 92, I think, but the last conversation I had with her, she was telling me all her whole life story from beginning to end, and it was so fascinating. Like during the war, what she had to do, where she was, and where she had to go to, and all the things that they did. And we didn't get to finish. I mean, she did write her life story down, but the last time I saw her, I said, "We'll continue this story next time we catch up." And I went and sat down with a friend a few days after that, and I said to her, you just never know if you're going to see them again, do you? And then she died. I was like, oh, yeah. So just to hear the rest would have been so good.
Yeah. Like, what age did she get up to?
She was 92 or 94, or she must be 90.
The story.
Oh,
in the story. Where did
sorry.
she get up to?
So the war had just begun. Yeah, so she hadn't she had a lot of amazing things that she would tell me, but just in little snippets, and some horrible things. Like her birth story is quite sad. She was just put in a room with a bucket, and it just made me think how lucky, and told to be quiet because there were men out there that were unwell, like some of the things she got through. And she was the sweetest, kindest, most awesome person. Yeah, so just to have a little bit more of a chat with her and learn from her wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Oh, what an absolutely delicious, yummy chat we have had today. I'm so honored to have had you here with me today, and that I'm very, very grateful that my internet and your internet were playing nice with us today. Thank you, internet gods and planetary gods. Thank you very much. So yes, everybody, thank you, Niomi, for coming to visit with us today and to share your wisdom and experience. And of course, you had your Vipassana experience 10-day retreat here in South Australia. So us South Australian peeps, if you are at all curious about going on that particular adventure, yes, there is a place here in Adelaide, so that is pretty cool. And if you would like to know more, obviously reach out to Niomi and she can lead you and point you in the right direction to find out more about that. And next week on Tasty Tuesdays, I have Kerry Ann, who is from Mindfulness with Kerry Ann. She is the sweetest woman you have ever met. She has a clothing business, as well as she's been reaching out into doing a lot more in the spiritual sense. And she is just such a little sweetheart. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat with her next week. In the meantime, though, I'll be back here for Find You Fridays this week. I'm not running off to Wallaroo this week, so we're all good. We're back and rolling into Find You Fridays on Friday at 8 p.m. Adelaide time. So in the meantime, of course, my friends, be bold, be brave, be you. Do something tasty for yourself. And until next time, bye-bye.